Good morning, everybody. My name is Daniella Matthews-Trigg, and I am, as you saw, presenting with my colleagues Kelly Watson and Dr. Emily Bartlett. And I'm with the New Mexico Department of Health Harm Reduction Program and with Vital Strategies. No conflicts to disclose. So today we're going to be talking about a project that we've been working on to address and educate on the increased heat-related health risks faced by people who are unsheltered and by people who use drugs. So who is most at risk of extreme heat? People who are unhoused, people with chronic illness and disabilities, people who are using substances, people over the age of 65, people with mental health conditions, and people who are socially isolated. And of course, people who have more than one of these are at an even heightened risk. So here is some 2023 and 2024 data out of Maricopa County, Arizona. Shout out to Maricopa County for their amazing data collection. And showing the disparities in risk of heat-related death experienced by people using substances and by people experiencing homelessness. You can see these two separate graphs. So in 2024, in Maricopa County, 57% of all heat-related deaths involve substance use. And in 2024, people experiencing homelessness made up the largest proportion of heat-related deaths compared to any other living situation. So with this project, we really wanted to raise awareness of these health disparities in relation to climate change and specifically extreme heat and who is most at risk. So we noticed a gap in public health information and guidance that was tailored to these most at-risk groups. So through the harm reduction section, we created a targeted campaign, an educational campaign to hopefully fill in those gaps. So using a harm reduction framework, we wanted to offer actionable and accessible information about heat stroke identification, prevention, and intervention, as well as information on interactions of substances with heat and protocols for assessing overdose versus a heat stroke response. Cross-sector partnerships are the foundation of this project. So that meant drawing on heat and climate specialists, harm reductionists, public health advocates, trusted outreach workers, and experts by experience, so people with lived and living experience. And this breadth of experience and expertise has not only widened the project's reach far beyond our initial expectations, but it also has greatly deepened the impact. The model that we use for the educational campaign is the rapid cooling algorithm. We wanted to be able to offer the most effective, but also the most accessible and realistic options for folks, especially for our target audiences who may have limited access to resources. And we felt that this model aligned beautifully with the harm reduction framework. So meeting people where they're at by offering a variety of different options for reducing heat-related harms. And I will pass it over to Kelly to talk about our project components.
Thanks so much, Daniela. So the campaign consisted of 4 overall components: print and digital materials, the heat safety videos, the heat safety kits, and the campaign project report that Emily will be talking about a little later. So it started with one flyer on heat stroke and harm reduction tips, which turned into wanting a visual element to complement that information, and that gave way for the videos. From there, we also wanted to have tangible items to distribute through our harm reduction networks to go along with all of that educational information. So we were able to obtain items for the creation of the heat safety kits. These components were not all decided at one time. but more so unfolded as the campaign process revealed different needs that we felt needed to be responded to in order to make this campaign as truly as helpful as possible for folks. Next slide, please. The first component of the campaign is the digital and print resources. So each covers a different aspect of heat safety and response, including the quarter sheet size resource you see there on the left, which addresses opioid overdose and heat stroke. And then we have larger poster size resources, like the one there on the right, that covers the symptoms of heat stroke. We also have a flyer with harm reduction tips specific to heat safety people for people who are using drugs. These materials will all live on our website in English and Spanish, so folks can download them whenever they're needed, and that's where that QR code goes. And we're also distributing print copies to our harm reduction partners here in Albuquerque. Next slide, please. The third component to the campaign were the heat safety videos, which consist of 5 videos total, with the first covering how to identify heat stroke symptoms, and the following 3 videos each cover one of the rapid cooling techniques that Daniela mentioned earlier. And the 5th video is a compilation long form video. These are some photos from our filming day here in Albuquerque. They were filmed with our colleagues and project partners volunteering as actors, and we're just so grateful and thankful to them for their time. And the videos additionally will be on our website, nmharmreduction.org, and they will also be available in Spanish. Next slide. So now we're actually going to give you a preview of one of the videos. This video specifically is on identifying heat stroke symptoms and how to tell the difference between heat stroke and an opioid overdose. This video is especially important for the populations we work with because often symptoms of heat stroke and opioid overdose look similar. So it was really important to distinguish the two medical events and the specific responses that need to happen for both. So Daniela, whenever you're ready.
All right. Can everybody see the beginning screen? Okay, great.
Heat stroke is an emergency requiring fast action to save a life. Heat stroke happens when your body gets too hot and can't cool down. Heat stroke can cause serious damage to your brain, heart, kidneys, and other organs and can result in death if not treated quickly. Using drugs or alcohol in the heat or being in the heat for long periods of time can increase your risk of heat stroke. This video will teach you how to identify the signs of heat stroke. To recognize the signs of heat stroke, look for the following. You think or know the person has been in the heat and they are hot to the touch, they are experiencing one or more of the following symptoms: confusion, slurring their words, stumbling around, or they are unconscious. It could look as if they are drunk or high. Heat stroke is an emergency. Call 911 first and tell them that you are with someone experiencing heat stroke.
If the person is choking, gurgling, or not breathing, and you think it may be an opioid overdose, immediately call 911 and administer Narcan. Tell them that the person is struggling to breathe, then begin rescue breathing.
Once you've ruled out overdose and while waiting for EMS to arrive, move the person to a cooler location and begin quickly cooling the person down with water and ice if you have it. Remember, if you think or know the person has been in the heat and they are hot to the touch and they are experiencing one or more of the following symptoms: confusion, slurring their words, stumbling around, or they are unconscious, call 911 immediately and begin cooling. Quick action can save a life.
Great. So while Daniela is pulling up the presentation again, I just want to give a special shout out to our colleague Tracy Gordon, who served as the fabulous narrator for all of our videos. He works with us in the harm reduction section and was just awesome. So thank you to Tracy. Okay. The last component I'm going to talk about are our heat safety kits, and you can see some of the items there that we included in them, like the cooling towel, sunscreen packet, lip balm, bug repellent, electrolyte packs, and eventually we're going to get small spray bottles. This campaign component was really important because it actually allows for our harm reduction partners and the regional public health mobile units to have and obtain some of these physical items that prevent and treat heat illness, as well as reduce overall harms caused by heat, which is obviously always what we do in harm reduction, is reducing as much harm as possible. The heat safety kits are going to be available on our supply portal for the regional mobile units and our contracted harm reduction partners to order as they need for their specific populations and areas. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and pass it back to Daniela. Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly. So project learnings. We have had a lot of project learnings throughout the course of all of this work. So one of them was figuring out how to use the specificity of the expert guidance in a clear and accessible messaging. So that was a real challenge that Kelly took on as our communications specialist. But a lot of what we did with this is we really listened to our partners and we tried to stay really open to pivoting based on the feedback that they gave us. One of the major learnings, and honestly, one of the greatest challenges of this project, has been figuring out how to balance heat safety best practices with a harm reduction perspective. Sometimes the capital B best option is not the most realistic or accessible option. We also found that existing guidance on overdose and heat stroke is limited. The symptoms of opioid overdose and heat stroke can look similar, as you saw in the video, and it has been a challenge to figure out how to provide accurate and clear guidance while also sticking to the scope and messaging of this project. And lastly, the value and importance of collaborating with community partners and trusted community messengers in getting this information out to our target audiences. So the campaign is officially launching in May. As Kelly mentioned, these digital and print resources are up and have been sort of circulating, but the videos we have been sort of holding back until this May launch. We wanted to align it with the, beginning of heat season in New Mexico. We know it's already hot, but also National Heat Awareness Week. And we will be disseminating this sort of packet of resources and information statewide to community and tribal partners, as well as public health offices. Kelly mentioned our regional public health mobile units, health councils, and we also really hope to share this with other states who are also dealing with extreme heat. All of this information, like Kelly mentioned, is available for download. The videos will be uploaded on May 1st, and we really hope that you will share it out with your networks. So now I will pass it over to Dr. Emily Bartlett to talk about the project report.
Great. Thank you so much. We're very excited to release this technical project report to accompany this campaign. This is being released by Healthy Climate New Mexico in collaboration with the New Mexico Department of Health and Vital Strategies. And I want to give a huge thank you to my co-author, Nate Matthews-Trigg, for his deep expertise and his incredible contributions. This report came about because there were many lessons learned through the development of this campaign and the need to collate evidence from many different sources. So the current evidence base related to people experiencing homelessness and co-occurring substance use disorders with heat-related illness is quite limited. And so there was a need to pull information from sources such as Society for Critical Care Medicine and Wilderness Medical Society, which often addresses care of patients in austere environments with limited resources, as well as pulling in from, for example, exertional heat stroke in sports-related settings. Next slide, please. And so we know that this is a really huge need. A recent study from Boston University found that people experiencing homelessness have a 10 to 100 time heat attributable mortality. And we also know that there's an opportunity for impact. So in other settings, when there's been timely initiation of treatment for heat-related illness or heat stroke and timely achievement of target temperature, there can be up to 100% survivability. And so the intent of this campaign and what this technical report is supporting is really activating the ability of bystanders to act early, to intervene, to get that early care started, and also empowering community members and those who might be affected by these conditions to be able to take action themselves as well. We're using evidence-based practices, again, based on currently available information, and also taking into account population-specific considerations and risks. So for example, the risk of medication-induced thermoregulatory dysfunction, the consideration of co-occurring opioid overdose that may be present, the consideration of methamphetamine-induced toxicity or stimulant toxicity, and then of course the complex social and medical context for this population. Next slide, please. The report accomplishes several things, and I encourage all of you to take a look in detail. The link will be in the chat and will be released very shortly on our online sites. There's a focus on pragmatic recognition response protocols, so a bias towards action with the evidence that we do have at this time. And again, we're emphasizing bystander recognition and early treatment, and this is very much aligned with the public health approach that's been taken to other critical conditions such as CPR for cardiac arrest or early intervention for stroke.
Emily, the interpreters are having a little challenge. I know we have a time pressure, but they'd like you to slow down a little bit.
Sure, no problem. Thank you.
Thank you.
Of course. So again, this is a approach that has been taken that's aligned with a public health approach to other critical illness, such as early bystander recognition and response to CPR for cardiac arrest and early response to stroke care. We also want to emphasize the early mobilization of resources, so the approach of calling for help early and then initiating treatments on scene. So the approach being call for help and then cool while waiting. There's an evidence-based hierarchy of cooling methods, including cold water immersion as what we know to be the fastest method for cooling, however, may not be accessible in the community-based setting. Tarp-assisted cooling oscillation as something that may be available and has similar efficacy. And then evaporative cooling as a method that is likely to be available on scene with resources available. And again, the report really does a important job of highlighting new knowledge gaps and opportunities for future research. And we really want to encourage those in the research community to engage and to help validate these protocols that have been based on pragmatic existing evidence. Next slide, please. Again, huge thank you to everyone. The QR code is here for additional resources. And if we have any time remaining, we're happy to take questions.